Oh, God. Oh. Oh, monster infighting as well. Absolutely awesome. Yeah, I can't imagine playing this with an N64 controller. Look at this area here. Oh, man. I've brought it to 314 React here, and today we are looking at Turok, which has been recently upgraded to the KEX 4 engine. So, of course, Turok was originally released in 1997 for the N64 by the developer Iguana Entertainment and the publisher Acclaim Entertainment, and it was remastered by Nightdive Studios in 2015 for Microsoft Windows, had an OS X release in 2016, Xbox One and Linux release in 2018, and a Switch version in 2019, a PlayStation 4 release in 2021, 5 release, and Xbox Series XS in 2025, which is where we come to now with this update to the KEX 4 engine. And I have played the remaster before a few years ago, and it's definitely one of those games that has that quintessential N64 look to it, very SGI graphics look to it, and we'll get a little bit more into that later. So now it has support for high refresh rates, improved controller functionality, some more achievements. They've added some Turok beta content back to the main game. You can now swap ammo types for the tech bow and the shotgun, just like in Turok 2, so you don't have to use whatever ammo you've currently got. You can actually switch between them, which is really good. The run walk toggle has been re-added from the original game. It means you can actually utilize a bit of stealth to walk behind enemies to get closer before they notice you. You can now bind multiple weapons to the same button cycle to switch between them. Some more restored content in terms of the High Priests and their blue attack magic, and the Perlin's unused leap smash and melee attack. Restored the gallery cheat code with the addition of viewing the bosses in Turok. And you can also preview animations on the enemies. There's new menu options, the key points being extra controller options, extra gameplay options, Radial Fog, player shadow, walk toggle, change ammo, head bobbing options, HUD options, graphical options such as always show lens flares and anti-aliasing between SMAA, FXAA, FXAA fast and off. Audio options, save file names are now localized. There's been some font improvements, fixing some animated textures. Enemies that have blown up in the air are now able to fall off cliffs and float and sink in water. A few more fixes to enemies. Simple shadows take into account the fog when they're drawn. Fixed shadows drawing on top of other shadows. A few more enemy fixes. And unfortunately, due to the nature of the change, the old save files won't work with the updated engine, but you can go back to the legacy version by opting into the KEX 3 branch on Steam, which is cool they allow you to do that, but Steam Cloud has been disabled for the old version, so you'll have to start again if you upgrade to this version. And this also adds support for the Vulkan rendering API, which should hopefully, in certain circumstances, give better performance. So let's dive in and take a look at some Turok on KEX 4. So you got the awesome intro for the KEX engine there. We've got the really cool Acclaim intro there. Look at that with that environment mapping on it. Absolutely awesome. So good. This is so late 90s tech. I love it. Oh, it's awesome. It's awesome. Absolutely fantastic. Here we go. Let's have a look at the options. Right, gameplay. Let's have a look. Game difficult, normal, projectile collision, default precise. I believe that was on the 2015 one. Extended draw distance on, Radial Fog. We're going to switch that on. Oh, look at that. You can see the fog kind of tails off a bit in the distance. Splash movie, intro cinematics, player shadow. Make sure we have that on. Walk toggle on. We definitely want that. And ammo switching on as well. Head bobbing options, so you can actually adjust the amount of head bobbing here, because if you've played the original game then you know that there is a lot of head bobbing in this game, and when you strafe and turn, Turok's head moves in that direction. I quite like the bobbing. I think it's a really cool little thing they added in, but just to be comfortable for people watching, I'm going to switch all of this down to 0. Let's go to graphics. So I'm going to switch it to SMAA, which I think is probably the best one. Bloom on, light scattering on, water refraction on, simple shadows on. Always show lens flares. Let's put that on. Display FOV 47.5. My God, let's get that up to 110. Because of course we are running at 4K, and we're also on a Ryzen 7700X, 32GB of RAM, and an RTX 4090. I imagine much less impressive hardware. We have to play this pretty much fine, so I don't think there's too much worry as long as it's compatible with either Vulkan or Direct 3D 11. I imagine you'll be fine. But we're going to flick this to Vulkan, and I've also cranked it up to 144 Hz and the max FPS at unlimited. And as you may be able to see in the corner here, it says we're about 144 FPS, and I don't expect it to go below that. So there we go. That's all of that set up. So if we can go to the input bindings and go to actions, what do we got here? Walk toggle is left shift. Makes sense. Change ammo type is R. Fantastic. So I think we're pretty much done. There's also controller support as well, which is really cool. And they've added a whole bunch of extra gear to this, such as southpaw modes, etc. So that you can adjust to your own personal preferences for using a controller. There's the cheat menu. Oh, wow. So I've already got a few cheats here that I can activate, but I can't use some. I don't know why some are unlocked and some aren't. Interesting. Anyway, let's start the game. So actually, I first played this on PC probably about 4 years ago, and I have a really good memory of a Saturday playing this. It's a Saturday as I'm recording it, and it's a very similar weather. I have a great memory of that day. I ordered in some McDonald's, got some McMuffins in, and just played some Turok. It was awesome. I'd never played it before because I didn't have an N64 back in the day, but I just love it. It's got a really cool feel to it. And of course it's got the underwater music here, which is just so good. Oh, it's great. I love it. Let's get the secret pistol here. Start grabbing some of these bad boys. Bits of the Triforce. I fell in love with this game instantly, despite the fact I had no nostalgia for it at the time. I do now. But, look at that animation. But it's just the fact that it has this late 90s surreal aspect to it. And if you're a long time watcher of the channel, you'll know that I really like my sort of surreal abstract graphics that kind of have elements of realism that they were trying to go for at the time, but also are quite abstract, and the art style, the technical limitations become a part of the art style. The imagination flies because you can see the sky here is just occluded by these clouds. Oh, being attacked by a Velociraptor. Obscured by these clouds, and in the distance there's all the distant fog, and even with long distance rendering on, there's still lots of fog, which I think is great. I'm glad they've kept that in because that is a key part of the experience, because you're always imagining what's beyond the fog. So it's not just a technical limitation, which it was, of course, to reduce polygon rendering, but it's a key part of the experience as well. Oh, it feels really good as well. It feels even better than it did when I last played it as well. Mouse feels really responsive. And in a second I'm going to Google what Radial Fog is. Oh yes, someone's shooting at me. There he is. Oh, that's so good. And look at the water here as well. Just reflection, refraction. Beautiful. And you can turn it all off if you want and go back to the original N64 water, which in my opinion, the original N64 water still looks really beautiful. So if you flick all that off, there you go. Look at that. It's just like a basic little animation, but I think it looks great. It reminds me of Battlezone 2 water, but that was a bit more advanced because I think it was like a bump map moving across a surface. But if you go far enough away from it, if you go far enough away from it, it looks really cool. Look at that. I love it. Really love that water. Anyway, let's crank those graphics back up. And of course, if you flick all of these off, you can go pretty much back to N64 style graphics. The only thing they don't have is the ability, I don't believe, to flick on a CRT mode. Also love the cases flying out of the weapon there. Love these little pickups. I love all the environmental map usage. It's so good. There's just so much environment map usage in this game, and it looks beautiful. It's that classic sort of Half-Life look of metallic effects. Let's have a look at some Radial Fog. I'm just going to get my phone out here and do a quick Google. Hopefully we don't get attacked. A Radial Fog. By default, the fog becomes thicker proportionally to your distance from the clipping plane set at the clipping distance, which causes distortion at the edge of the screen. This setting makes the fog use the actual eye point distance, calculate the fog, which makes the fog look less artificial. So it looks like here. This is with the Radial Fog on, and this is with the Radial Fog off. So you can kind of see it disappearing at the edges of the screen there. That's interesting. I wonder if that's what it is. Let's turn the Radial Fog back on. Oh yeah, look at that. Look at that difference there. You can even just see it in the menu in the background. So yeah, linear fog is just purely from the distance from the camera on the viewing direction, so directly in front of you, whereas radial fog is calculated on the actual radial distance from the camera around the entire viewpoint, so it creates a spherical fog around you. So yeah, you basically get a better fog effect. That's a cool little effect. And it's also cool that you can switch it off to get the old effect back as well. Look how beautiful this water looks. See, the more reflections you have in the water, the better it looks, because then it gives it that really nice sort of bump mappy effect. Oh, look at that. And yeah, there is a bump map there being used. Oh, yes, look at that. And the actual water moving up and down there. See, this is kind of what I wish games would delve into a bit more now, is by using the technical limitations and the technical elements of the time to make a more surreal environment, rather than just always using it to opt towards more realism, if that makes any sense. And of course, running at 144 frames a second is absolutely incredible. It feels so smooth with G-Sync on as well. Yeah, let's have a look here. So we've got the Radial Fog on. Let's switch the Radial Fog off. Yeah, look at that. It's much more squared off as directly in front of you rather than around you. So put the Radial Fog back on and you'll see it fill up in the areas to the left and right. Yeah, there you go. Oh, that's satisfying. I love stuff like that. Yes! Oh, yes. I love this shotgun as well. Look at that. Just the way the shells fly out so satisfyingly. Oh, I love it. Oh, trying to press the reload button, but there's nothing to reload. But the R button will come in handy when we switch between different types of ammo. Oh, God! Luckily, I just hit a checkpoint, so we're right back at the checkpoint. This comes towards the surreal nature of Turok 1. Because the second and third ones, they were more relatable in terms of you're in a space you could imagine. Like I played Turok 3, I think, the other month, and it was like in a city, and you kind of understand the layout of the city, roads, apartments, cars, buildings, but this is so abstract and so surreal, and it just feels like that magical late 90s strangeness that technology had. You know, the internet was this strange thing that was exclusive to the PC in the corner of your living room, rather than everywhere around you. And graphical rendering was this new, strange, magical thing that, again, wasn't so easy to attain and run. It was all very new. So everything had this kind of mystery to it, this mysterious air to it, and I loved it. And that's what this game has the perfect feeling of. Ooh! Not to mention the fact it's just extremely satisfying. There you go, the R button, you can flick between the arrows. So there's things you can recognise, they're obviously like little wooden huts and stuff, but it's just the fact that it's all floating up in the air somehow, like it's just a bunch of islands floating in the air. It's kind of like Crash Bandicoot in a way. Oh, here we go, some lava. We're in the lava zone. And the shooting mechanics are so simple, but they feel absolutely great. Oh, look at that. Look at that. It's just, it's beautiful. It's good to know that Nightdive update their games. They do a really good job of remastering games and staying true to them while adding new stuff in. Look at that. I mean, just look at that. That right there is a screenshot you could get and have it as your desktop wallpaper on an old 1024 by 768 CRT screen on your Windows 98 PC. It just looks beautiful. I love it. I absolutely love it. I think the biggest thing from this update is just switching ammo. Because before, say you had like some green shells of shotgun ammo, you'd have to use all the green shells before you could go to the red shells. But now you can just flick between them. So I think that is honestly, the best part of the Kex 5 upgrade. Oh, I love the way the enemies die. It's so good. Let's also take a look through the cheat menu gallery. Here we go. So you can look through all the different types of enemies and move the camera around them. can use the scroll wheel to go through them. How cool is that? Ah, you click and it cycles through their animations, I see. That's really cool. So you can just go... and it just repeats the animation. Oh, that's so funny. Oh, that's awesome. Raptor mech. Raptor with a gun. My god. So you can basically see a whole ton of the content in the game. That's awesome. Oh my god, look at this thing. Hey, it's Halo 2. Iron Man. The Humvee. There you go, even all of the main characters' animations you can see. Fantastic, that's so cool. That's a cool little addition right there. Look at that, though. The trees that just go into the sky and you can't even see where they go. I'm not even sure of the lore of Turok either. I think if you were to read the manual, or look at the wiki now, but back in the day, you look at the manual and probably get a bit of a story out of it. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it actually works better without really having a clue what's going on. Because again, it's just so bizarre and strange and surreal. And in today's sort of gaming landscape, we get stuff like Destiny that just endlessly throws constant lore and story at you and exposition. It's just nice to have a game where you can just dive in and get lost in it. Let's go to explosive rounds. Boom! Oh, here we go. What's this? Is that a big box of shotgun shells? Why don't they have that in games anymore either, where it's a box of shells? Just something so satisfying about picking up a box of shells or a backpack of ammo. It's so satisfying. Whoa. Okay, we've gone into rave mode. Oh, it's slow-mo. See, it's been a while since I played this. Can't believe it's been 4 years since I previously played this as well, which is scary to think how fast that time's gone. But yeah, the rave mode, slow-mo mode there reminds me to talk about the music, which is very simple, as you can hear, but extremely effective. In that it kind of conveys the environment you're in, and also the pace of the music is kind of like Doom in terms of Mick Gordon's music, where it keeps the pace up. So you can kind of get an understanding for how you're supposed to be playing the game from the music. But it's also got kind of a spooky element to it as well, with the sort of noises in the background, animal noises, people making noises, the weird sort of elephant noises there. Really good soundtrack. Now we come to a really interesting little maze area. These are little insect creatures which are really nicely animated. The other thing with this game is that it really makes you want to explore everywhere, so you can find all the little pickups and stuff. And here, look at the fog here, it's like completely black fog, so it's even more creepy. And the tempo of the music has been reduced quite a bit to fit the environment and the gameplay of this area a bit more. It's really, really freaky. If we turn the radial fog off here, yeah, because again all the fog's directly in front of you, it doesn't surround you as much. So the fog back on, it feels a little bit more atmospheric and spooky. Really nice little touch. Really good upgrade. A Chrono Scepter piece. I mean, come on, it's a game with something called a Chrono Scepter in it. What more do you need? There we are in another area, which is increase the tempo a bit. Oh, it feels so smooth. I'm going to flick it back to Direct 3D in a minute and see if we can do that in-engine without having to restart the game. And see what the difference is. I imagine it'll feel the same. Oh, look at that. How good does that look? Of course, bearing in mind, a lot of the graphical options we're seeing here were in the 2015 version. There you go. Box of shells. Switch to the tech arrows. There we go. Nice little blue explosions there. This area here reminds me of like something from Crash Bandicoot again. Look at that, it just goes into nothingness. And the weird sky. Yeah, this is the bit where you put all the keys in and unlock all the different levels. It's the hub zone, or the hub world. There we go, we just opened a world up there. Let's dive into it. Now, here we go, we can look at one of the portals here. Look how good that looks. Oof. Late 90s awesomeness. Because that's the thing with N64 games, they want it to look like Silicon graphics, I believe. And they never could quite get there, because obviously doing Silicon graphics in real time in the late 90s was not too feasible, but they did manage to give it the aesthetic of that, the art style of the Silicon graphics look. And especially with the N64's ability to do texture filtering and anti-aliasing, as blurry as it was, it gave the games a really cool look. And I think that's probably what I mean when I talk about late 90s graphics and the abstract look of them. It probably is the Silicon graphics look, because that was the future back then. That was when you'd look at the pre-rendered stuff and go, wow. Like you look at the back of a PS1 game, there would be pre-rendered graphics of the characters that are in the game, and it would just look so incredible. It's pretty rudimentary now, but back then it was like incredible. And you'd always wonder what it'd be like to run that in real time. Oh yeah, secret portal time. But the N64 kind of managed to replicate the look of that. It wasn't as sharp or as crunchy as the PS1, but the PS1 just couldn't capture that feeling. Because again, you've got these sort of environment map sort of things here, the sort of distortion on the vortex that looks really cool. You had environment mapping in PS1 games, I believe. At least I think you did. Maybe there wasn't environment mapping in PS1 games, you know? Yeah. Environment mapping is a hardware feature that is not available on the Saturn or the PSX. So yeah, the PlayStation 1 didn't have environment mapping. So yeah, the presence of environment mapping, texture smoothing, and the sort of anti-aliasing that the N64 had, it gave it that sort of future feel to it. Because it kind of makes you think of, where are we going to be in 10 years? Where are we going to be? That excitement. And of course, 3-4 years after this came Exile, which was CryEngine's demo showcase for their CryEngine 1, which of course turned into Crysis. Well, it turned into Far Cry first, then Crysis. There needs to be another game like this. Turok Crysis-like game. Big open areas. Not open world, just big open areas like this. Because there's a difference between open world and very wide open areas. I think that's another thing we have too much of now, is open world. I mean, look at this. It's just magic. It's just pure late 90s 3D rendering, magic, and atmosphere. Also, the thumping of the dinosaurs is awesome as well. And incredibly freaky. Ooh, yes, little underwater hidden area. The sense of exploration in this game, and just that any corner you turn could lead to something new and exciting. Can turn into a bit of frustration when you're trying to look for more pieces to unlock new levels. And you're kind of in these maze-like areas, trying to go back and forth, trying to figure out where you've been. But again, that's kind of part of the magic, really. Ooh, there we go. The little bugs are such a waste of ammo, so it's best to use your knife to take them out. I mean, look at this. Look at this. What kind of surreal nonsense is this? And the sort of rudimentary rope physics there. Fantastic. Ooh. Oh god, so surreal. Ah, skeletons, of course. Best games have skeletons in. I think Doom Eternal had this kind of surreal game-like environments in it. With certain areas. That's what I want to see more of. Oh god. Oh. Oh, monster infighting as well. Absolutely awesome. Yeah, I can't imagine playing this with an N64 controller. Look at this area here. Oh, man. I mean, I did a video on brute force a couple of years ago. If you go back and look at that video, I'll link it in the description. That also has a very similar feel and vibe to this, but of course just a little bit more advanced. But it has environments that are really similar to this. Not as much fog, but stuff like this. So I think you could make a game nowadays that still has modern techniques in it, modern rendering techniques in it, but still has that kind of vibe of surrealness and a little bit of the feeling of the future in it as well. And just because I have a feeling people are going to want it, I'll do another run through the water without saying anything. Oh, it's actually holding my breath throughout that. Look at that. Oh, it's so good. And of course, as walk mode, you can see indicated there by a nice little thing in the corner when you press shift. So even walk mode is quite fast, but let's see if you can use it to sneak up behind an enemy. Guess we're not going to do it here. Whoa! So there's some enemies around this corner. I've got walk mode on. Let's see if I can actually sneak up on them. Nope. So it doesn't seem to be that many situations that allow for stealth. Oh, he hasn't seen me yet. Does he have any sort of animation where he'll walk around? See if we can just sneak forward. Just oh no! God, he's got a huge laser gun thing. This also reminds me, just a bit of a tangent from trying to do stealth. This reminds me of a Mac game where you controlled a dinosaur called Nanosaur. I'd love to play that at some point. Oh, look, here we go, here we go. Boom! And let's go Crisis 3 style. Oh no, he saw me. Oh my god. Oh my Christ. So stealth is possible in this game, it's just really, really difficult. So I've just relaunched it in Direct 3D, and the immediate thing I can see is that it won't go to 144 Hz. I've got it selected here, but my monitor's set at 98. Also, it looks like the gamma may be a bit different. Just looks a little bit brighter. And yeah, running at 98 frames is still good, but it's not 144. So you can definitely feel not as smooth, but generally the frame rate isn't dropping. So yeah, it seems Vulkan is a nice little upgrade as well, just visually, and it allows you to have higher frame rates, at least on my system. I think the reason why is because my desktop is set to 98 Hz. Because of the display port that I have, you can't have HDR 4K and 144 Hz. So what I've chosen is to go down to 98 Hz on the desktop without using any sort of color compression. And I think Direct 3D limits you to that, so you can't actually go above your desktop's refresh rate, whereas Vulkan doesn't seem to care about that and allow you to go above it. I think that's why. So that's another thing to keep in mind. But like I said, it does look a bit brighter. It doesn't look quite as good to me. So yeah, that's the Direct 3D mode that you'd have originally been able to play on in 2015. So let's flick back to Vulkan. Definitely, the colors look a lot better on Vulkan. Sure, there's some way you can adjust the gamma on that. So even Vulkan is just a visual upgrade in some ways, and you can go over your desktop's set refresh rate, which is nice as well. Anyway, let's load back my game where I was previously at. Another game that has this kind of feel of surrealness is Munch's Oddysee that I played a few months ago as well, and that was on the Xbox era, so it's not strictly limited to the late 90s, although that probably was developed quite a bit in the late 90s. Yeah, it's good nostalgic time. And it just bodes very well for game preservation when Nightdive continue to update their games. Because of course you have to preserve the remaster as well, you have to preserve the preservation. Because after a certain amount of time it could be that technology moves so forward that even the remasters you can't play anymore. So the fact they keep them up to date is really, really good. That is Turok on the Kex 4 engine. Really cool to see. Like I said, the only thing I could probably say they should add is a CRT mode. but you can probably use reshade for something like that relatively easily anyway, and it allows you to play Turok, of course, without having to use the N64 controller. And yeah, I just love this game. It captures that perfect sort of Silicon Graphics late 90s graphical aesthetic that I absolutely love. It's kind of like Unreal, but on a bit of a different frequency. If you like the video, please do leave a like. Let me know what you think in the comments. Subscribe and hit the little bell, really helps the channel. Keep an eye out for new videos every week. There's also a new video on tech and video games. Thanks for watching. Hope everyone's staying safe, and I will see you in the next video.